You're very welcome back. Today's video I'm going to talk about what sport is actually for and why most people get it wrong. So in sports we're all taught about performance and goals, such like better scores, better results. There's a winning and a losing aspect, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I spent a bit of time recently in a rehabilitation centre, a hospital, as a volunteer helping out, actually in a shooting context. So they have a range, and it was sort of a sports day, if you want to call it that. And I went along to help out. Interesting environment, interesting location, very interesting people, lovely people. What I saw, what I actually observed, and actually what I experienced myself was an interesting one. Different people have different relationships with sport. Enjoyment was a part of it for people, escape was a part of it for people, connection and even meaning, having listened to them and talked to them. Some of this I experienced myself, and some of it was sort of a grounding moment for me, if I'm to be honest. And in this video I'm going to sort of explore the idea that sport is not just one thing. It can be multiple things, and it's down to the individual in the context of what they want from the sport. Shooting sport, but also I would say this transfers into other sports also. So I suppose what I would say is I saw something that changed me, the way I think, because I have a particular mindset. For me, I look at sport, I look at where I want to be, what I want to do, and I do have goals. But there were other aspects to the sport that other people highlighted for me. There was this was their break away from a week of intense physio, for example, or intense physical therapy, or an escape away from maybe a reality they found themselves in, particularly because of the environment. So spinal injuries being the environment. They had escape, they had fun, there was smiles, there was that thing you'll see with people where they get a 10, for example, and suddenly the eyes light up and they look around for validation. So there's an excitement aspect to it. Some, I think, enjoyed it more unexpectedly even. They may have been told, get out of bed, go and do this, and it turned out into something they enjoyed more than they realised. Without understanding everything about the shooting sport, it was pointing and pulling a trigger, but the beauty of it was we had a target, showed up as a spot on a target, and that's where the excitement starts. And then the questioning, is that good? And of course the answer is always yes, of course it's good, contextually. I suppose the experience, different ages, genders as well, which was something that was interesting. I found it challenging in some ways and interesting in loads of ways, because I'm in a wheelchair, and I don't I've never been around that many people in wheelchairs in all my life in one place, even throughout the injury and the rehabilitation that I got myself. So it was interesting to see people's perspective on what they were looking to get out of the sport, I'll call it, but actually out of the experience. Some were, I had to use the word naturally able, because some people tend to just pick up something like this, whether it be golf or soccer, hurling, football, whatever it's rugby, or in shooting, and it just seems to, certain things come easier, shall we say. There's no technical setup in any of this. There was no mad adjusting of rifles. People were just asking simple questions like, is that good? And I'm sitting back watching from a distance and I'm going, there's no way you're going to hit a target because you're not even sighting correctly, and even though you explain it, they're still pointing below the target. And nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm actually using my paradigm, which I don't do that. So it gave me a good grounding in, maybe a good kick in the backside too, going, okay, so take this back. Take it back to where you were when you started. Take it back to where people are coming from. Again, I knew nothing about the sport. They know nothing about the sport. However, there was fun, there was excitement, there was anticipation. All those things which discipline and training sessions, things like that, can take out of you if you're not careful. But grounded me in the mindset of there should be fun, has to be fun at some stage in the middle of it all. Otherwise, it can become work. But when I saw the innocence that I also had when I started pointing a gun at a target, pulling a trigger, I mean, there's an innocence around what you're doing because you don't understand the breakdown in every aspect that you do over the months and years, I assume, with good coaches around you. I suppose the different worlds they were looking at it from a rehab perspective. This would say they only probably got 10 minutes each, which you can't do a lot with 10 minutes except give someone a smile, which is what I managed to get done. And that I think might have in itself at this early stage have been exactly what they needed. I mean, it's high performance training I do, high performance environment I exist in. But there has to be a smile and a giggle. And I look at these people who came along that day to pick up a rifle for the first time, all the questions about it, the awe of it, which there is. And that's something I think maybe they benefited from, and I may have lost in some respects, and I've made plans to bring myself back into that environment again. Everyone wants to be a winner straight away, of course, with a target like with a sport like this, and there is winning and there is losing. That's when you put yourself in that category. But first and foremost, I would say fun is what it should be about. I'm training for consistency. Their expectations when they get one shot that would say hits a 10. And the next one's out in a 9. There's no consistency in there, but there is that let's get another 10, which brings the smile, the anticipation, the expectation, and the fun. And I think removing the competition element from it, I saw people who were enjoying themselves, enjoying the break away from a reality they found themselves in, being in the physical therapy environment, the medical environment. And I found shooting actually has helped me enormously by giving me, I suppose, a purpose in some respects, but an identity also. And this allowed them for that moment to have an identity too, which when they finished, they were going back to a ward. So, I mean, I can relate to that. And something I really relate to, which is really interesting, I get to ask people questions that able-bodied people can't ask them. So I asked you, like, does your arm work properly, your leg, like, not particularly the legs, we're all in the wheelchairs, but when I see people then go, can you hold the rifle properly? Now, an able-bodied person stutters over that going, I don't want to offend. Actually, a benefit I have, and it's something I may look at in the future, is helping people from a disability environment. I'm actually, in a lot of cases, worse than they are, particularly for holding, because I can't hold the rifle myself. I need a spring. So there was far less of a barrier, is probably what I'm trying to say, by me talking to them, because we're more or less all in the one club. We didn't probably all sign up for it, but we're all in it anyway. So, I saw a completely different environment, a completely different way of doing things. What I would say is, when you end up with this performance-only mindset, so you have people that get a shot and they want to go to the Olympics, okay, and then there's nothing wrong with that. But not everyone wants that. And maybe some questions should be asked as into what do you want from this sport? That could be a good starting point. Ask them what they're looking for from that day even, because we're all going, they want 10s. And I mean, that's a natural enough thing. We all want to hit a bullseye. But there's a lot of work then when you attach to what is getting another bullseye, for example. Maybe they just want to break away. Maybe they like the idea of a rifle. Maybe they don't want to score at all and would be happy enough just having the rifle and shooting at a target with no screen, for example, that they can't see the instant response. Definitely, I would say not everyone should be pushed towards performance. I feel that could be a dangerous one in the effect of you need to volunteer for that, because over time it needs to be them that made the decision to bring them into that environment. Otherwise, there could be pushback where people are going, well, this is not what I wanted. I might have ended up here, but I was told I should X, Y, or Z. I would say too, the expectations. So when everyone is expecting to hit a bullseye, is that what you should be looking for? Because I mean, on a fun level, I believe if it happens, fine, and when it happens, excellent. But when you start telling people, and I would have heard this, it's for example, my arena, it's going to be 10.5 and above for a shot. Or you're not getting into a final and you're going home. So those would be the expectations. I signed up to that. So I have no regrets at all in that mindset. That's where I want to be. However, when I see people who won't have signed up for that from a coaching perspective, and I was, we'll call it, put into that coaching position by some of the staff within the unit that we were at, it's a dangerous one. I was more into, can we get people to have a bit of fun before we start? How do they get another one? And people talking about going off and getting classification, considering they'd only shot maybe 5-6 pellets in the space of 10 minutes. And I think it might be the wrong way to go. I think people should sign up for that type of a mindset. Other than that, I think we should have fun as much as possible. What I would say is the sport itself, any sport, but I'm going to talk about shooting, and it has to be about enjoyment. And I do enjoy the discipline side, but another athlete should enjoy another aspect. It shouldn't necessarily be discipline. I'm just lucky. It should be escape, perhaps. It can be escape from a reality, whether you're able-bodied or not able-bodied. Getting off a ward might be enough, a hospital ward. Getting away from the reality of the paradigm we find ourselves in. It can be a connection with other people. Like, why knock these benefits? Achievement at any level. So what I would say is everyone should be in a sport level, a fun level, sport level, and then after that, self-selection brings you to, we'll call it a high performance or even a competitive level. We'll say competitive because high performance is another one that I'm still trying to work towards. But I think if you achieve what you set out at your level, then there's no disappointment. There's only disappointment when there's not a reality based on everybody wanting to be an elite athlete. I mean, I work every day to try and get to that level. I might never get to it, but that's what I work towards. And it can be a safe place where I found people opening up and talking because there was no judgments. You know, when you're in a medical environment, from my experience, everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of what happens when the consultants come back the next morning. When you're around your own, as it were, you can have a little bit of banter, a bit of chat. I used to say when a flyer used to come in, I might get, we'll say we've taken out the 9 ring. I'd be very disappointed if I couldn't take out the 9 ring. And then they'd want to go to a 7 and people go, what happened there? And I go, well, that's just to prove I'm human. I put that in there, otherwise there'd be questions. Even that type of lightheartedness around a sport that's high precision, high performance. But yeah, people should they could find a safe space where they can talk. There should be fun, enjoyment. There could be that escape, without a doubt. I use it as an escape on the days where the reality I find myself in is not particularly all fun and games. And it's a connection with like-minded individuals. You'll find people in this sport. I think this sport, I've found more of them in. And when you get them, time flies because all you're doing is talking about shooting, talking about how do you do this and how do you do that. You know, getting up in the early mornings, staying in the late evenings. It's a very fun discussion, but it's also a very intense discussion all around shooting. What I would say is coaching. I don't think coaching should impose the direction. I think the direction should be based on the athlete, would say. So if someone comes in and you've had the chat and they only want the fun, they should be the one. Now, you keep shining the light in the room, as I call it, and eventually someone will go, well, I might like to go there or do that. That's different. But when you get someone who switches straight, someone gets a 10 shot, and suddenly they're switching into, their pistol grip's wrong, the cheek piece, this could be like someone who's in their first months even. I think that might be a mistake, where a coach starts they may explore the option of, you're quite good. Have you thought of, but if their goal straight away is everyone who comes through that door has to be shooting 10s and it's a reflection of them if they're not, I think you're missing an opportunity within sport. I think it needs to start definitely with an understanding of the individual. Maybe someone should ask the question from the individual, what do you want to get out of this sport? Progression, it should be optional, it shouldn't be forced. The worst thing you're going to get, because at some stage it's going to fire back at you that this is not what I wanted. Or they start resenting coming to something. And you will, from my experience, there's days I resent coming to train when the last training session didn't go well, but then I signed up for this, no one beat me into it, therefore it's easier for me to get down off my high horse, if you'll excuse the pun. I get down off my high wheelchair. I think the athlete is the one who should define with the coach what success looks like. Whether that's success if I came here just to shoot a few pellets, whether that success is I'm improving, we have a plan we're working towards. I believe this is how a coaching environment, but the coach for me primarily, and this is a rock I'll die on. Coach's job is to create a safe environment for the athlete where they can be open. And that means open with their fears, their aspirations, their dreams. I don't believe coaching can get to a high performance level. And when I say high performance, that can be someone who comes for a bit of fun. The high performance level of that is where that person goes home having had fun. But if the coach is going to couch every statement that comes out of judge them on every statement that comes out of their mouth during a training session, I don't believe an athlete can exist in that, even having fun. And they'll shut up. They might start missing sessions. They may not come when you're on, things like that. So I would say that sport is more things to more people than just winning and losing. It should be something to everybody. Ask them, that's what I would say. Performance is only one path, and for me, again, that needs to be someone who has opted in, not someone who is told that they're in that group. Otherwise, that will kick back. I have no doubts about that at all. I would say that when you align their goals with your ability to deliver those goals, coaching can really go to a high level. Other than that, I think at some stage there's a misunderstanding. There'll be a break of some sort, frustration on either or both sides. I'd say if you get it wrong, you'll lose more people than you gain. So that would be my mindset around sport being something for everyone. Why not ask them what they want it to be? Well, you'll never lose. It's only when you start telling them what it should be from day one. I think that potentially is when you will lose people's interests, and you'll definitely take the fun out of the sport. I'm thinking about the next video, and I think what I'm going to cover is why this sport demands mental control, high mental control. So looking forward to speaking to you again. Thank you.